This tripod feels like it's gonna fall over any minute, and that's terrifying. Good morning vlog. Hello everybody, gather in. Welcome to another cozy weekend winter writing vlog. Before we get any further, in case we haven't met yet, hello, my name is Taylor Alexander. I am an aspiring screenwriter, playwright, and novelist. I am currently preparing to start the first stage of revisions on my Enemies to Lovers YA romance novel, and I am now in the stages of wrapping up the first draft of my historical fiction novel, Project Cartomancy, which is exactly what we're working on in this vlog. Quite frankly, I don't know how long this book is going to end up being. I started planning it and doing a lot of research around the time that I finished up the first draft of my romance project, and then I wrote a whole bunch, about 25,000 words over a couple months while doing a lot of research. This is my first time doing heavy research for a novel. And then I wrote 50,000 words in the month of November, added that to the draft. The draft has got to be nearing about 100,000 words now, and quite frankly, I don't know how much longer it's going on, but it feels like we're getting nearer to something, if that makes sense. So essentially, I don't know if wrapping up is the right word, but I've filmed this intro about 5 times now, so we're gonna go with that. And today we are working on figuring out what specifically the second half of this book looks like, because every morning I sit down and do a writing sprint and I'm feeling a little more lost every time. I did a plot sheet when I initially started doing planning on this book, and after I'd figured out my characters and where the basics were of where I wanted them to end up, but it's changed a lot. I've deviated from that a lot, and now I think we need to recenter our focus, figure out where we are, where we've been, and what needs to get done before the end of the book. This is quite funny to me because when I started writing novels, I was a pantser. 110%. I just went, this is the characters, this is the story. I did nothing, and I just wrote, and oh my goodness, have I learned the joy of planning now that I have become somewhat of a planner when it comes to these novels. Of course, the best feeling for me is still letting the story and the characters drive the plot and what's happening, but I find it's a lot easier to have that freedom if I've started with boundaries. When anything can happen, it can be really hard to lock down on one thing. Whereas if you put yourself in a little box and say, here's the limits, if you give yourself 2 characters, a general plot, some sort of guideline, you'll find the expanse of your creativity, at least in my case, goes a lot farther. And I'm finally figuring that out with novels. Boy, am I glad that I did a lot of research for this one, especially being historical fiction. I think what got to me, A, was the fact that I'm very interested in the topics that I've chosen and the time period. This book takes place in the mid-1980s. And second of all, I was gonna find it really hard to write this without knowing that I was screwing a lot of information up and going to have to fix it afterwards. But that brings us back to our goal in this vlog, which is to review our plot sheets, review our character sheets, figure out where I've gone off the beaten path. I've added a lot of new scenes to this book, and see if we can somehow translate what's happening into an updated plot sheet, beat sheet kind of thing. In case you are interested, I do have a very brief little reading update for you to kick off the new year. I started off January by finishing The Secret of Secrets by Dan Brown. I'd been reading it for a while because I am a parallel reader, so I read multiple titles at the same time, bouncing back and forth between them. That is a mystery thriller that's basically, as I've been saying, the manuscript gone wrong. Then I started Dungeon Crawler Carl, the first book in the Matt Dinneman series, and I am so excited about this because I've been wanting to read it for so long. This book, I was expecting outlandish. I've never read a book like this before. There's drug-dealing llamas and a cat that talks named Princess Donna, and Carl doesn't have any pants for a good 3/4 of the book, but it's an experience. I got about halfway through that and am thoroughly enjoying it, but then I walked into a library, which is a terrible mistake because my library has a lovely display in the doorway where they put some of the new books that they've gotten in, and so I ended up checking out 2 books after I walked in there saying I'm not going to check out anything, and I walked out with 2 more books, and so now I have to kind of put Dungeon Crawler Carl on hold while I read these 2 books so I can get them back to the library in time. And that starts with Hot Air, which is a new novel by Marcy Dermansky. I picked this novel up because I am trying to read a lot of things that I haven't before. I'm trying to start a lot of notable series. I'm trying to read more authors that I've been wanting to read, like R.F. Kuang and V.E. Schwab. And another thing that I want to read more of is shorter novels and novellas. It's about 195 pages, I think. I am almost to page 45, and it's quite a comical book. It takes place post-pandemic. There's a single mother who's just gotten divorced, and she and her daughter go over to their neighbor's house because the mother's going to go on a date with the neighbor at the house. You'll have to excuse if I'm getting tripped up on my words here because Joni's on a date with Johnny at his house, and Joni's ex, who she kissed at summer camp once, so they didn't really date, but they remember one another. Jonathan and his wife Julia are in their hot air balloon when they land in Johnny's backyard, and Joni is there. There's a lot of J names. A bit of a satire, it feels at times, like they all end up wearing the same clothes and they're switching couples, and it's a very funny little book about, I guess, kind of what it is to be in our billionaire society is essentially what the book is summed up as, because Jonathan, who's in the hot air balloon, has gone off and become a billionaire, and Julia basically just spends his money for him at these foundations, and they have a bad marriage. The end of the inside flap, just so you can understand what I'm going through trying to describe this to you. Soon she finds herself alighting on a lost weekend with Johnny the bad kisser, Jonathan the billionaire, and Julia, Jonathan's smart, stunning wife. Does Joni want Jonathan? Does Julia want her husband? Or Joni? Does Johnny want Julia? Does Jonathan want Joni or Julia, or maybe his much younger personal assistant Vivian, who is tasked to fix it all? So there's a lot of... It's a small cast of characters, but they all have very similar names, except for Vivian and Johnny and Joni's children. I am just getting into that one, but it's going along pretty quickly. It's multi-POV, so they switch between the 4 J's, going back and forth with their experiences. It's passive narration, but it's done in a very comical way, and so I'm really enjoying this one. I also picked up a book by C.B. Lee in the library called Coffee Shop in an Alternate Universe. It's a regular novel, but there are these really adorable illustrations of the coffee shop treats and such. I picked this book up because not only do I need to start reading more YA romances as I prepare to revise my own, but I've been seeing a lot of these coffee shop fantasy books. I've heard a lot about Legends and Lattes and things along that line, but I haven't read any of them yet. And as someone who loves coffee, I write, I read, I love coffee shops. This just seemed like such a fun premise. These two girls meet and one of them has a family-run coffee shop, but she's in an alternate universe, so they have to take little like teleportation portals to meet each other. The illustrations just, they sucked me in. I said, if that's the vibe, I'm in. So that is the other book that I'm going to be reading once I finish Hot Air. Okay, now that you've endured my rambling about my reading, we can get to the part that you are actually waiting for. It is time to get working on this replotting. So I think the first thing that we need to do is review my current plot sheet. Without further ado, welcome to the writing vlog. Okay, so I've been going through my original planning and it's been quite helpful to jog my memory. I did not go that far off the beaten path, which is good because I was able to pretty quickly identify where I am at. What I used for this, and this was a new method for me by a writer and blogger, E.A. Deverell, I believe, and it is the one-page novel scene spreadsheet. So this is a spreadsheet that I accessed through Google Sheets. I'm sure it's also available through Excel and other spreadsheet platforms, and it breaks the novel down into different sections. There's different stages that then have scenes. So I am currently on the section Bolt. The plan falls to a surprise attack, a setback, or a division. This is actually only about halfway through the planning. There are 8 different stages. It starts with your stasis, then your trigger, your quest, Bolt, which is where we are, the shift, defeat, power, and resolution. So I am currently in Bolt. And I see I've got this little mini arc there of about 4 scenes, and what I think I want to do first is go through and review that arc and really break it down into subplots, because I have these little 1-sentence descriptions, and I think that's where my planning is lacking at this stage in the writing, because there are a lot of specifics and details. I'm delving into a new topic here, and I really need to make sure that I know what I'm talking about, so I need to flesh out the aspects of what's actually happening in the plot. And this is of course the part of the book that I didn't really do much research on because it came as a second point. You may know that I've been doing some research on the FBI and the history of homophobia within the FBI, especially during the Lavender Scare and J. Edgar Hoover's time as the director. This is in the aftermath of that in the 1980s, and I had to pick a crime. I had to pick a crime, and I've had to do a lot of research on that. So that's where we are at. These 2 characters that I've been following around and have had really dealing with one another and with their own identities now have to get into the nitty-gritty and the specifics of what they're actually supposed to be doing for their job. So I need to do some research, I need to break down the plot points, and then we can review the rest of this 1-page novel scene spreadsheet, see if there's anything else we want to adjust, especially in terms of the character relationships and character psychology. One thing I found that I really adore is character psychology and how it impacts the plot. And as much as I want to love every ounce of my characters and protect them because I am the author, I have also learned that, unfortunately, they need to be very complex, which I love, but also they can't be these good people against the evil forces of the world all the time. They need to make mistakes. They need to do, you know, not the best of things. They need to have their morals ebb and flow and be questioning and be wondering and exploring the world, you know, in the way that humans do. And so we need to find some deeper cutting flaws for them to drive some tension, especially as we arrive at the middle of the book. and we come up to the climax where things get crazy. So I think I'm gonna pull out a notepad here, jot down these plot points, find first what I need to research, then perform some research and break down the plot of this stage, which is Bolt. Let's get to it. I think I'm gonna use my research notebook for Cartomancy. I've been loving these pens lately. They're, I believe, a Japanese pen, but this one looks like a little whale, essentially. They're very nice. They've got a soft grip. They're gel. You can hear that, but the first waffle turned out so crispy. Like a bagel chip as a waffle. I said before, it's a mess, but I've been spending some time outside in the snow. I love the snow. It's so gorgeous to look at. And now that it's turning from afternoon towards the night, it's so lovely to look at, especially while I write. I adore this weather for writing. The waffles turned out all right. I haven't made them in a while, but I was happy with them nonetheless, and I watched some plotting videos on YouTube. I love watching fellow authors and writers' experiences to see their processes and see what I can gauge from that. And now that I've done some research and I'm feeling inspired, and I also listened a little bit to my Project Cartomancy playlist, of course, music is everything for me when I write. I just found this scene chart by Annie Neusbauer, who is a writer and a short story writer, I believe, a novelist as well. And it looks a lot like a scene chart for when you are planning a film. Essentially, it has the character's point of view, a one-line scene description, how many pages you think, what chapter it's going to be, and then any notes you want to add. So I'm going to take that, and for the remaining chapters of the book, I'm going to take my initial one-page story chart that I was talking about earlier and see if I can flesh it out a little bit more, especially using that secondary notes category. And I think that rewriting it, even if so much of it stays the same, just the process of having to put that on a new piece of paper, on a new document essentially, will force me to kind of really think about what I want in each scene and to really help me flesh it out. As much as I want to make a whole plot board, I don't think I have all the materials for that. I didn't quite plan for the very fun arts and crafts time of making a plot board. So instead I'm going to go through, have these documents side by side, listen to my playlist, listen and enjoy the vibes, enjoy the snow, and let's try and re-plot the second half of Project Cartomancy. Looks like a winter wonderland out here. Oh my gosh. Can you see that? It's snowing again. More snow. Day 2. I don't mind this, but it's not the vibe. Oh, orange. Oh, that's kind of nice. Green. I'm waiting for it. That green. Production value is going up today because I pulled out a light for once. I cannot get enough of this weather. I'm trying not to shout right now because I know this is supposed to be a cozy winter vlog, but staring out the window at the snowfall as it keeps coming, as it keeps increasing, it sounds like it's gonna go all day. I am just so excited right now and so in love with this. Good morning and welcome to day 2 of our little replotting writing vlog. I'm so excited right now, I can't even talk. I love the spring, but as a writer, I love to get going with my work at this time of year. Don't get me wrong, I love when it's a rainy fall day and I can cozy up with some orchestrations and write, but the snow is just, it's breathtaking. I cannot express it enough. I also just love to go out in the snow too. I will definitely 110% be out in the snow later today, and I realized that after I put product in my hair. But first things first, I have not yet written today anything in Project Cartomancy, and that is not as much of a crisis as I am making it out to be because it's not even 9:30 in the morning yet. But I have been back on my 5 a.m. schedule. Every day I get up, I spend some time reading my romance project, and then I write in Cartomancy. The 5 a.m. sessions are something I've been really enjoying. Today I did not do one, despite how much I love them. As you saw, I read some of the romance project, and I then did some of my planning for the day, caught up in my little daily planner slash journal. It's got a nice little notes section and everything so I could recap the day, and did some other things. I did a little yoga this morning, and now we're here, 0 words for the day. The thing is that I've now become so reliant on daily writing because I started off the year going, it's a new year, I'm gonna see how many days in a row I can write. I think I said I wanted to write 300 of the 365 days or something like that. I wanted to write most of the year, and so far I've written every single day, which is giving November 50K challenge vibes, but little less stressful, a little less chaotic. I am working on a no zeros philosophy. It's something that I've seen other writers do where no matter what happens, you just don't log 0 words. So there have been days where I am so tired and went, oh my gosh, I forgot to write, and it's 30 words for the day. It's 1 paragraph, and that's perfectly okay. That's what I love so much about this philosophy, is that it just encourages you to write. And so now it's becoming a habit and something that I rely on, and something that I'm really excited to do now that we've started the process of replotting, and I can say I think it's already working. I did not get very much done on that chart last night. It's taking more time than I thought it would. However, I do have the next scene more fleshed out after doing some research and after rewriting those descriptions. So I'm going to do a little writing sprint right now, or I don't know if you call it a sprint. I'm gonna do a sprint, but I'm not gonna set a timer maybe? We'll figure it out as we go along. I just love writing when it's snowing. The last 2 times that it has snowed like this, I've just written about my characters in the snow and it actually made a whole new scene and arc, and the snow kind of became a symbol, and we'll see if that ends up actually meaning anything. But now it means something. I now affiliate snow with this book, which is a really nice thing. It's nice to have something that you can look at and go, that's my book, and this is a very small part of the book, but it definitely now is related to the book, and I cannot wait to weave the snowfall in. However, this scene does not take place in the snow, and we are just going to enjoy the snowfall as we write. So let's add some words to that word count. No zeros, baby. Here we go. The snowflakes keep getting bigger. I don't even know if you can see how big they're getting, but they are getting so much bigger. They're clumps, basically. It's not even like flakes, it's whole groups of flakes, practically. They're huge. Look at that. Shit, it's so magical. I feel like you can see them more over here. Do you see how big they're getting? Oh my goodness gracious. I cannot believe this. Alright, I am back. The writing sprint is done and I ended up starting a new chapter. I've been on this one chapter for a very long time, and I think that's in part because of the fact that I had no clue where I was going. So I have literally been working on this one chapter, chapter 30, since the 7th, so 10 days, and now I'm starting chapter 31, and I wrote 752 words, which I am definitely happy with. Yesterday you did not see, but I wrote 507 words to finish out chapter 30. I know that this vlog is supposed to be all about replotting, but I'm definitely going to embrace the writing mood that I'm in today, because the one problem with this no zero word count thing and the way that I've been running my schedule and my days is that this year I have hardly put in a 2 writing session day, and I am yet to clock 1,000 words in a day. My highest word count was, well, no, actually I did. There was one day, the 14th, where I clocked 1,000 word by doing 2 sessions. And I'd like to write more, not just write, because now I'm getting into the habit of it and getting into that consistency with it. So if I can do more writing sessions today in addition to replotting, I think that would be very cool. Okay, I am back, and I did some more writing. I wrote another 601 words, which means we've written over 1,400 words today, which is the most that I've written this month, and now that we're in January, I can say it's also the most I've written this year, which is really exciting. It's always really nice to have that little mental reset, even though time's just going on and we're changing the calendar. I find that it's really nice to have the reset. I think that it was nice, especially after writing 50,000 words in November. December was kind of a mishmash of a month for me when it came to my writing. I was not writing every day. There was multiple days where I just went in a row without writing. I was feeling kind of lost, and I also think that this replotting is really helping the state of my novel. Drafting this chapter has become so much easier. I want to write more. I started writing a couple hundred more words before filming this update, so even though I've only done a chapter or 2 of notes for the updated outline, it's helping so much. So now I am going to take a little writing break, and I think it is time to get back to some plotting, because that was what this vlog was supposed to be about. I feel like now it's about the snow and writing. Which isn't the worst thing, but perhaps it's time to get back to some replotting, because I definitely want to have the rest of this novel plan revised by the end of the weekend, which is tonight. Okay, it is officially done, and quite frankly, I think that it was really that one chapter, that chapter 30, chapter 31 kind of area that was the problem. The rest of this planning took such a short amount of time compared to those first few chapters there when I started doing this replanning, and I'm not sure if it's because those were problem chapters or because I haven't gotten to these other ones yet, and so I think it's easier than it's going to be, or perhaps I got into the groove of things. I did add notes and flesh out each of the scenes, so I'll be curious to see how it impacts the writing process further, but as I said, so far I'm very happy with it. The book, according to this, is going to be 44 chapters long. The first draft, I should say, is going to be 44 chapters long. I added a chapter, I took a couple away that were actually just a couple beats that could be combined into single chapters, changed a couple of the settings and what's happening. I do have it in one hard copy, so I'm very glad I did that. I do highly recommend, if you are feeling stuck with your novel draft or your script draft, whatever you're doing, revisit your original plotting. This is a working document. I think that's something we forget a lot. It's something that I forgot, and then when I was reading and finding these sheets, we have to remember these are working documents. This isn't meant to be fixed. Once you write it down, that's it. No, because it's changing. Because even though you've probably maybe done some planning or you've done some character development, the story's still going to change because you're sitting down and actually having to put it into words. At least that's how it is for me. Usually my writing is very fluid, things come up that I wasn't expecting quite a bit. Now that this is done, I'm hoping to do maybe a little more writing tonight, but first I want to do something a little bit different. I picked up this notebook back in November because I wanted a way to track my writing, especially for that challenge, now that we don't have the NaNoWriMo platform, and I didn't end up using a different platform. I wanted a way to track my writing. Ended up not using it, ended up taking notes on my computer, but I want to start a word count notebook this year. So I've been writing down all my word counts for January, and I want to put them into a graph. This is all graph paper, and since there's so much of it, I would also like to use this to keep track of what bookstores I visit and what libraries I visit, because that's something I love to do, is exploring different indie bookstores especially and different libraries all around. And so I want to keep track of that this year, as well as what I'm reading, because there's Goodreads, but I'd also like to see it written down on a piece of paper. I think that would be fun. So how about we start this notebook? And then we can write down all the words we wrote today. We have written, we have replotted, and we have enjoyed a lovely, snowy, cozy, wintry weekend. Thank you so much for joining me for this writing vlog. If you're interested in all things writing, reading, theater, yo-yos, random commentary on TV shows sometimes, I don't know, I mix it up occasionally, please feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more. Thank you again for joining me, and I hope to see you in another video. Keep writing!